What's a harsh reality that everybody needs to hear? Ugliness is a state of mind. If you feel beautiful, you will be beautiful. We are reaching a point of no return. Just like in the 1930s where the gap between the rich and the poor was getting bigger and bigger. When people start feeling that there's just too much injustice to handle, they turn against each other. That's when absolutists have the opportunity of taking the wheels of this toxicity. Remember, we are our only animals, living within rules of behavior and beliefs to show our fellow humans. Don't let society guide you. Go back to simplicity. Go back to nature. Go back to living in the now. Even having all the tech in the world, we still only have the now. And now. And now. Make the most out of it, respecting yourself and your fellow humans. Or we will be soon facing a new war, but this time, the end will be the end. Take time to meet another animal. You'll see how similar we all are in the animal kingdom, and it will help you find out that you belong here as well. If you see someone that you feel like complimenting, do it. How? Hi. I like to compliment people who inspired me somehow. I think you have a great hairstyle, style, energy, vibe. Have a good day. Even if it feels and seems awkward, it makes people happy. Just be careful not to talk like or mention weird stuff. Be simple and continue walking your way. Elderly people have the most interesting stories to tell and lessons to give. Children have the new knowledge and understanding of the world that is constantly changing. Let them play and learn with each other. Silence is underrated. Our own company is valuable. And learning to share silence with another person in order to be in our own company, gathering our thoughts for a while, is a demonstration of mutual respect. The Constitution establishes a federal democratic republic form of government. That is, we have an indivisible union of 50 sovereign states. It is a democracy because people govern themselves. It is representative because people choose elected officials by free and secret ballot. Our government will end, and life in the USA will never be the same. We will not have the freedoms we currently enjoy if the GOP wins the midterms on November 8th. Senior citizens will lose Social Security and Medicare. Your wives, daughters, sisters and female friends will lose their rights to healthcare and reproductive rights. Contraception is also on the chopping block. Humans who are LGBTQ will lose their rights and will be in physical danger. Same-sex marriage will end. Many more children will lose their lives to gun violence. We will never have a free and private election again. We will become a Christotheocracy. Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim, you name it, you will be discriminated against and persecuted. Public education will be dismantled, a wet dream of the right. Books will continue to be banned, and history will continue to be presented according to what the fascists want kids to believe, not the cold harsh truth. This country will be ruled by misogynistic, bigoted, racist, homophobic, transphobic fascists who give tax cuts to the upper 1%. And fuck everyone else. Vote blue. Most of your stuff is junk. I realized this when my grandparents passed away. We looked at all their random knickknacks and considered keeping them, but they didn't have notes or anything about where they came from, so we had no connection to them whatsoever. We kept what we did remember and ended up tossing the rest away. Boxes and boxes of things my grandparents had and likely cared about, all gone. If we had kept them, they most likely would have ended up in boxes in somatic, left for our own kids to throw away. None of it was valuable, we checked, or good enough quality to consider it an heirloom. And what family wants to pass on $1,005 heirlooms anyway? The folks at the thrift stores value those items more than we would, and I hope they enjoy them as much as my grandparents did. After that experience, I started looking at the stuff I was keeping around. A bunch of poorly painted collectible Disney capsule machine toys. I keep them in a box and never even look at them. Throw them away. The school notebooks I've been lugging from place to place. I have never referenced them once. Toss them. The hordes of backup art supplies. Fit them into one show box and anything that doesn't fit gets donated. I picked a few items I wanted to collect. For me it's Disney pins, Mickey ears, play tickets and maps from various video games, and made places to display them, so I can actually enjoy them. All the other hobby things for hobbies I never really got into, memorabilia I only half care about, paraphernalia for franchises I never kept up with, and other junk I got rid of. It was amazing. Marie Kondo really was onto something after all. I'm not saying you have to do what I did, but I'm saying you should consider it. If for no other reason, do it to save your family a lot of time and energy trying to decide if your one deck of poor quality old Pokemon cards is something they can throw away or have to store for the rest of their lives. My father got in a motorcycle accident in his 30s between having my older brother and I. He had limited use of the left side of his body for 39 years. As muscles shrank as he aged and had sicknesses, he was unable to maintain or grow them more, and scoliosis was intensely bad. He was in physical pain every day of those 39 years. He died in 2016 of an aneurysm, just as my grandma. Just like his dad. I had a ruptured disc and was 297 pounds 1 year before he died, and with his encouragement and support, I lost 110 pounds, and avoided surgery and reduced mobility. Fast forward 4 years, I'd gained back 40 pounds, and was starting to have sporadic pain in the same area of my back. This time, I started at 222 in Aug, and I'm at 203.5 RN. I will do this for myself and by myself. My husband doesn't care what weight I'm at all, and isn't my personal coach slash cheerleader, like my dad. I miss him horribly. I'm now taking excellent care of myself, and know he'd be proud. I learned from him as a young child, to do all the things your heart desires, within moderation, for it could all be taken away quite swiftly. My OG health scare and recent reversion happened after my mom passed last year. I stopped doing all the good things for my body and mind, have shown me just how much life there is left to live. I want to remain mobile and active, as long as possible. Recently been diagnosed with a joint condition that causes pain. Keeping my muscles strong prevents a lot of the pain along with weight loss. Doing everything I can for my health has been my only goal for some time. Now, it's like learning how to live all over again without a voice of support, love, and care. There is nothing remotely approaching both sides for vaccines. The evidence, produced by countless thousands of individuals in dozens of specialties, at hundreds of the very best universities, labs, and hospitals, in every advanced planet on Earth, is some of the clearest, highest quality, transparent, and most rigorously examined sets of data ever produced, as a worldwide history-changing disease understandably lead to huge amounts of time, resources, and expertise focused on this topic. The vaccines are incredibly safe, many thousands of lives saved, and healthy years extended for each example of a serious negative reaction leading to permanent injury of any kind. 0 of the anti-vaxxers I've discussed thus with had ever in the many months since this worldwide pandemic started have apparently read any of the mountains of public available hard evidence about this had any educational background in cell biology, epidemiology, virology, etc. Could even answer simple high school level questions about viruses. Had even read, in several years holding rabid opinions, the Wikipedia page about it. So we have on one hand, all the evidence, of the highest quality and quantity imaginable. The considered opinion of almost every single person who understands the issue. All the theoretical mechanisms well understood, and consistent with the evidence. On the other hand we have, those sketchy Facebook and YouTube videos of some guy. That long debunked known fraud who went on Joe Rogan. Joe of course, who chose horse dewormer over the safe, free, effective vaccines, and shockingly still got COVID. Your general opinion that people who understand things ought to stop being so smug what with their so-called facts and evidence, because your gut feeling, or the sheet some Fox News entertainer screamed at you between other fear-mongering about how neo-Marxist liberal socialists are coming to take your guns, force you to gay marry, and enact Sharia law. So which side do you fall on? The fact that someone else has an easy life doesn't change the fact that you have your own life to live. Who you know is way more important than what you know. Burying yourself in books isn't a virtue, it's a coping mechanism. The meat-headed jock is a stereotype. If you can understand why you retreat into a world of fantasy because reality sucks, you should understand the alienation anyone else feels when they get stereotyped. More a product for older generations, but video games and nerd hobbies are not a badge of honor. They don't make you special. You're not a victim. The reason people treat you differently is because you have the social skills of a troglodyte. Your inability to not speak in memes is not endearing, it's jarring. Your power level isn't a mark of prestige, it's socially isolating you. Everyone plays video games, you're not special. No one wants to hear about how good you are at vidya, unless you're the cream of the crop. Places don't remember you, people do. Finding, building, and preserving valuable social relationships is one of the most important things you can do in life. Being a shut-in hermit isn't glamorous, and even among introverts very few people thrive in such an environment. Most people don't escape their addictions. Most people who do only achieve it through serious lifestyle changes and serious introspection. While very few people would argue otherwise, that the war on drugs was terrible, the reality is that simply dumping it and offering no alternative is as bad, if not worse. Women do not like men who treat them like dispensers. And most women hate getting cold calls for dates for the same reason you hate getting called by telemarketers. Your existential crisis, insofar as having no beaches is an existential crisis, is not important to her. She just wants to go through her day unmolested. You never know everything, and you're never actually perfect the way you are. Just because you're 18 plus doesn't mean you're mentally an adult, mature, or as smart as you can be. Growing as you get older, learning something every day, and relaxing your pride enough to admit you're wrong is actual maturity. You're not a real man or woman just because you physically fight people who hurt your ego. You're emotionally immature and need to learn to control your emotions. You're valid in feeling upset or anger when someone does or says something to hurt you, but you completely lose that validity when you yell, scream, insult, or get physical over it. Also, when you're 18 plus, it doesn't mean anyone owes you anything. Respect, money, love, taking care of you. If you're an adult that has no job and is still fully reliant on your parents buying you everything you need, then you don't have a say in how they run their household. The only exception and understandable situation where you get any say is if you're afflicted with a disability that renders you unable to work in any capacity. And being a victim of it myself, I can fully say that just because you were abused or assaulted in any form, it doesn't mean you're entitled to anything, and especially doesn't mean you can treat anyone however you want and excuse it with, "Oh, I was abused, sorry." Not only will you lose the respect and support of others around you, you're making a mockery of other victims and are giving them a bad name. Do I get triggered by things others do? Yes. Do I scream or attack them and divide friend groups into picking sides because of it? Absolutely not. When you're triggered, step away, take a breath, and then calmly explain what upset you. People can tell you're faking a mental illness. People can tell you're lying. People can tell when you tell everyone else personal conversations or opinions just to start drama. People can tell when you're a manipulator, and people can definitely tell when you're a sheet starter just to feel superior or like a favorite. Just because they don't say anything doesn't mean you're in the clear. They just don't want to start drama like you do. Grow up and do better. Peak oil. Fossil fuels, especially petroleum, should only have been used as a stepping stone to renewable energy, and we've utterly botched it thanks to the short-sighted engine of capitalism. Couple things people need to remember about oil: we will run out of it when there is still a good amount present in the earth. We can only get the oil where it's economically viable. Doesn't matter if there's a million barrels right there. If it requires a million barrels worth of money to get it, they cancel out. Same as if it didn't exist at all. Petroleum, as a production material, is not renewable and worse, not replaceable. Every plastic, rubber, synthetic polymer comes from it, and we throw it away like confetti. Whatever renewable energy sources that could replace fossil fuels would need enormous amounts of energy to develop, build infrastructure, and build the things themselves. Not knowing what they will look like, a lot of waste will naturally be part of the process. And it needs to keep things running for the world. Serious global effort and investment needed to start like 50 years ago, but today remains a political football with no serious alternative planned. No real change in individual use. The pandemic didn't cause the supply chain issues or inflation, or rising costs of energy. It was just the catalyst that made the cracks in our system impossible to ignore any longer. The market will not correct itself with this. These problems and inequality will get worse. We've been running an economic model that requires continuous, unlimited growth. And it's been all built on a limited energy source. We are going to keep pushing that growth as energy becomes more scarce and expensive, and the decline will be uglier and harder as time goes by. We had a golden opportunity to have a future with infinite possibilities. Instead of figuring out how to get there, we just made consumer garbage and war machines with weapons so powerful that we dare never use them. Point a carnival pissing contest to the death. This will be story of humanity. It's everyone's job to fix climate change, not just corporations or the largest emitters. It seems like a lot of people think that because they aren't the worst carbon emitter, their hands are clean. Consumer culture isn't sustainable. Economies built on limitless growth are eventually going to have to reconcile that the earth cannot support limitless growth. Hopefully through innovation, rather than calamity. Point another facet of this, car culture. Cars are a nice luxury, I admit, but they don't scale to everyone on earth. We need to get better at consolidating transit options. Each person with a Tesla will just mean gridlocked electric cars. It's not really a solution like it's marketed. I get really tired of all the people pretending things are solutions when they are band-aids, and it's pretty clear we are on an unsustainable trajectory. At least wake up and smell the roses. Don't comfort yourself with lies of convenience. Be a cynic and say we are fake no matter what. But I can't stand when people pretend everything is going great and we'll figure it out because we made a 1% improvement in some area when we are like 300% worse in other areas. It's okay. You'll survive when you're honest about the situation. You can't change it alone, but at least acknowledge it like an adult. Existence necessitates a cruel cycle of causing suffering and death to other beings, and there's no escaping it as it's a part of the fundamental nature of the universe. People mostly turn a blind eye to it. Point a lot of problems people think they have exist because other people tell them they have the problem, and if they were to never acknowledge or accept that it was a problem, it might legitimately not ever be a problem. This is usually true when it comes to things that are socially derived conventions of how someone ought to live their life. Your source of pain comes from the fact of people telling you you're not fitting in, not with the actual behavior itself. I'll make an example that doesn't really exist much in reality, so you can accept it. Say you grew up in a culture where painting was shunned. You grew up loving to paint. People tell you you're a freak for painting. You develop a lot of internal conflict between your love of painting and the fact that everyone else is telling you that painting is bad. But in reality, if you never listened to these people and pursued your passion for painting, you would be living out your best life. Social conventions are very powerful sources of people's personalities and are often the source of a lot of internal conflict. But a lot of them aren't rationally justified, just kind of exist on earth as loose absurdities that you either accept for healthy self-delusion and social cohesion or reject for internal acceptance. Life is not about you. Nothing in life is fair. Live life the best that you can. Be realistic instead of being a blind optimist, but try not be pessimistic either. Better yourself, that is, get better educated, learn basic language and math skills, and keep an open mind. Don't be a jerk. Treat people how you want to be treated, with consideration, fairness, and kindness. What goes around comes around. Same as the golden rule principle. Believe in karma as it will come back to you on how you treat others. Pay attention to what people do instead of what they say. People do lie. Respect is earned if someone is a VP, president, lawyer, CPA, MBA, rockstar, etc. Who cares? Credentials are only good as the people behind them. Stop procrastinating and being lazy. It makes life miserable for others. Be considerate to others. For the most part, honesty is best instead of constantly lying, as even small lies add up negatively. You may have to open yourself and your heart to feel love, and for others to return love. Be cautious not to rush into relationships. Relationships are reciprocal, that is, it goes both ways, and it continually needs work. There will be pain, but if you meet the right person who truly loves you back, it's worth it. If your nation is becoming increasingly authoritarian and is revoking or neutering your rights or social services, do not expect to see them return within a generation. Your only realistic options are to either leave for a country that does respect the societal values you ascribe to, or you can wait it out, possibly for the rest of your life. Moving to a new country requires upending your life for a nation that may not be compatible with you, and in the latter case, you may never see your lost rights and opportunities return at all. The only ways to enact rapid societal change are by electing enough supporting politicians into a decisive majority. Very difficult if you have an apathetic voter base and a dearth of trustworthy politicians. By organizing a massive peaceful protest across the nation's major population centers. It needs to last a long time, carry the implied threat of widespread violence or economic disruption, and resist the government's often harsh and insidious methods to break up the movement. Your movement needs to have lasting power and support and to scare the government into coming to the negotiation table with you. Violent revolution has the most potential to bring about rapid change, but it's often not the change you want. It's chaotic and often leaves your nation in a worse state than you left it in. Violent revolution should only ever be an absolute last resort. Gonna get buried, but here we go. You'll need to understand the fact that at the rate we are going, we are gonna use up all the Earth's reserves of rare metals used for battery production by 2045. Lithium reserves will dry up by 2038, nickel by 2040, cobalt by 2045. And EVs are not the future or the answer. Hydrogen is. Despite being way less efficient on paper. Don't believe me? Here's why. First, personal automobiles create only a fraction, 7% to be exact, of greenhouse gas emissions when used, and next to nothing in the grand scheme of things when manufactured and or disposed of. Second, considering lithium batteries can't even be recycled properly, EVs are offsetting the majority of pollution to their place of manufacturing or disposal, but in fact, create considerably more of it than a regular gas-powered car. And when running off of electricity produced by coal-based plants, which supply over 50% of population with electricity, EVs produce nearly as much waste when in operation as a diesel-powered VW Golf claimed to back in the early 2010s. Oh, also, who would have thought? Atomic electricity is way cleaner, cheaper and less season and weather dependent than any other type of green energy. At least for now, before the fusion is commercialized. While I'm at it, US citizens and electric companies should realize that buried cables are superior for residential and low-density backroad areas. Suspended cables are an early 20th century relic, and people should get rid of them. I doubt anything's gonna change before the suppliers are made accountable for mass outages and fires caused by a suspended wiring failure though. The use of money, not cash or credit or debt. Money, as in the concept of money, is now the root cause of nearly all of our social problems. A majority of crime is driven by the desire for money. Poverty, homelessness, hunger, lack of medical care, lack of education, all 100% because of the use of money. We have the technology to recycle over 96% all our waste, yet worldwide we recycle less than 15%. Why don't we? Because we still use money, and we will not do anything, like recycling, if we cannot make money off it. Money, the concept, has served us well for over 7,000 years. But now it creates more problems than it solves. We are now capable of producing and distributing an abundance of everything a human needs, and most of what we want. Money cannot function in the presence of abundance. The price collapses, nobody can make money, so we abandon production. So now we artificially create scarcity out of abundance, so we can continue using money. We artificially create a scarcity of food, clothing, shelter, medical and educational supplies and services, also we can continue using money. Money motivates most crime. We will never solve our social problems by technology alone. Technology to solve most of our social problems already exist. It's sitting on shelves unused, because we prefer to continue using money instead. As long as we continue to use money, we will never solve our social problems, and just because some people fail to imagine a world without money does not make it impossible. It just means they lack imagination. TLDR, in a recession, heading for a depression and markets still haven't crashed. Bonds, stocks, and currency all bad places to keep money. We are in a recession and the government has changed the definition and is using different terms to not panic the public. Multiple indicators are already worse than 2008 and some comparable to the Great Depression. Even worse is it's that bad without the markets crashing yet. Great Britain has narrowly avoided crashing the market twice in the last month or so. China is misreporting all their financial information to avoid crashing it for months now, and Australia and Japan aren't much better off. There's a currency war being fought between the USD and the rest of the world. Honestly, not smart enough to dive into that much more. Bond markets, the safe place to put money, is in turmoil and no longer safe. Stocks are down 20-30%, with bonds being down more. The Fed and the Bank of England are insolvent. People have already reportedly lost 90% of their savings, again before a crash. Poor handling of COVID has exasperated the situation, and exhausted tactics that could have been used now. The second largest housing company in China is on the verge of collapse and has only been standing for over a year now because everyone is too afraid to file bankruptcy claims. Second largest bank in Switzerland, Credit Suisse, has been bailed out by the Fed and Swiss government, but is still struggling to acquire funds to stay afloat. The inflation situation is so far out of hand that there's no way to not crash the markets while fixing it. And the Fed is actively trying, and has stated it plainly, that they are trying to increase unemployment and reduce the wages and power of the American worker. I'll give context, because it's a hard one and I don't want it to come off wrong. I was raised in a negative style. It was a trauma Olympics about every day about things. You had to have the worst experience to get attention. So I used to complain. Constantly. Which was only made worse by the neglectful way in which I was raised. So, I was the real life Debbie Downer. One day I was complaining about how tired I was to a room of my peers, probably 12 at the time. 10 people and everyone was just trapped with me complaining, and were polite to tell me to shut it. Until they weren't. Someone just quietly said, "Dude, no one cares." And it changed my life. It recoded or broke all communication structures I had formed. It wasn't that no one emotionally cared. I'm sure they felt bad, or at least wished I had slept, so I would shut it. But what was it to them that I didn't sleep? Why was I looking for validation from these people just randomly in the room? I realized then that other people wanted to be happy. They didn't want to complain. They didn't want to have things to complain about. They honestly just wanted to be happy. And so they simply made changes in their life to help them be happier. Instead of making things worse to have the best thing to complain about. That comment, "Dude, no one cares," without a doubt has been the most life-changing thing anyone has ever said to me. And with all honesty, I think about that every single day. I think, is what I'm saying relevant to the people around me? And sometimes when I'm very aware, I'll say something along the lines of, "I'm just having a terrible day and I need to complain for a minute." Or, "I don't need you to respond to this, but I need to say it out loud." Among a few others, but the awareness of my communication has helped me exponentially in life. You are responsible for your own happiness. I feel like lots of comments are grazing this, but not quite hitting the nail on the head for me. I see a lot of people blame their situations, their pasts, the people around them, and the world at large for making them unhappy. Even people forfeiting the pursuit of happiness because of brain chemistry or old habits. And while sure, your external and internal environments may influence your attitude and mood, the only one who gets to decide whether or not you'll be happy is yourself. It may mean disconnecting from social media, giving up on projects or people, or leaving jobs or communities. It may mean unpleasant things like putting in more work to cook for yourself, or wake up earlier, or go back to school, or work on your portfolio and resume. But you're never going to be content in life if you let yourself dwell on the negatives of life, or how far behind or inferior you are. World's going to shit. If it doesn't directly impact your life and there is nothing you can do about it, then let it go. You can come back to the big issues when it's time to vote. Shitty childhood, it's in the past, and there's no reason that it should stop you from pursuing happiness. Bad home situation? Seek out things that bring you joy and know that it will pass. And if you have the power to leave, then leave. If you don't have the power to leave, then look for the things you can do that will help get you out. Even if there's lingering consequences of some past trauma, you can recognize it, yet not let it dominate you. I've known too many people who allow themselves to be ruled by their anxiety disorders and just give up on everything without ever trying. I used to be in that same boat until I started plotting concrete steps I could take to improve myself and started consciously interrupting myself when I'd start to death spiral. It may feel and sound ridiculous and embarrassing to vocally tell yourself I will be happy today, but it's up to you to put out into the world the energy and thoughts you want to experience. Go outside during the day, get some fresh air, take a walk, and think about what actions you can take right now to bring you happiness, because no one else is going to do it for you. Take ownership of your happiness. Your life is what you make of it. Nobody else is responsible for your shortcomings except for you. You own all your failures and all your successes. Blaming others or the system for how your life turned out may make you feel better about your failures, but it won't fix them. And nobody except for you is suffering when you choose to blame others instead of bettering yourself. You better get out there and be something before you turn 70 and are just a bitter old husk complaining about your shit life and how it's someone else's fault. If you want financial security, get out there and work. Do jobs other people don't want to, or bust your ass for training early in life, so you're valuable. If you want to have success in romance, do anything you can to be more desirable. Hygiene, fitness, charm, security, all things that attract people. You can't fix shit genes, but you sure can dress up what you got to work with. If you want a life of comfort, go find it. If you want power, go earn it. If you want respect, be worthy of it. If you want friends, be someone who others want to be around. If you don't have these things, it's your fault. Try harder and do better. Complaining/being bitter won't solve anything. It'll actually push your goals further away. Our economies always have been, are still, and will be for quite some time predicated on most people globally having pretty miserable lives. No society has ever truly found a way to circumvent that. Even for the best high-income welfare states, watch what will happen to your ability to provide for your people when you can no longer get ultra-cheap consumer goods and intermediate goods from people living in abject poverty elsewhere in the globe. Wait for everyone in Bangladesh and Nigeria to be earning first world wages during 35-hour work weeks with heavily subsidized social benefits, and let's see how much stuff you can really buy. Maybe some utopian future society will have the ability to extract abundant resources from the earth through AI and robots, while somehow circumventing all problems of resource scarcity and energy's impact on climate, but we really aren't. Very close. But for right now every country is reliant on maintaining a stock of super cheap labor within their borders that can't truly afford to live in that nation, and or two other countries around the world that are poorer than they are for the purpose of advantageous trade. The more we can take care of our citizens, the more it pushes the problem off onto other people. Not to say that there isn't merit in everyone striving to get better, but there are definitely some hard truths that don't go away just because the human misery isn't visible in your community. Before you die, and you will, because it's part of the whole human being thing, please meet with an actual estate planner, not your uncle or a certified financial advisor. Even if you don't think you have whatever an estate is, or even have a cent to your name. Write a will, make a plan for your death, and make a plan so people aren't left trying to figure that shit out, especially if you have debts that will potentially require payments, litigation, or settlements. Get specific amounts, dates, ages, stipulations, etc. We couldn't read your mind when you were here, and now we definitely can't. Yes, it's hard to do this stuff. Confront mortality, but be an adult and do it before you're surfing way out of the galaxy on morphine and deluded in hospice. The old I give everything I have, life insurance, physical and financial assets, savings, etc. to my family/spouse/organization is not helpful, will absolutely get piss people off, has the potential for violence/catastrophe, and typically involves expensive years-long litigation. Do you want people to destroy lifelong relationships over who would get your smelly, pink lounge chair or that dining table that no one actually really wants in their home? But it's the principle. If you have biological children from a first marriage in addition to non-biological stepchildren from a current marriage, do not assume your widow will just do the right thing for your biological children from a previous relationship. Everyone in split or non-traditional family situations will benefit from your clear, specific and thoughtful planning. Tough news, but that come be a moment with all estranged family members around your hospital bed will last less than a week. Once you're gone, those people are under no obligation to behave the way they said they would. Any potential windfall individuals believe they are entitled to from your estate will bring out the worst. Take time to write an honest and specific will, because people will absolutely change in unexpected ways after you've left the proverbial building. TLDR, write a will, meet with professionals about what this entails for you, and then write it down. Take responsibility for what you choose to leave behind. Make thoughtful choices. The people in your life don't want to be stuck cleaning up all your shitty messes after you've left, but if it happens, just know there'll be a bunch of people doing it while thinking you're a total asshole. According to me, the harsh reality is that life in cooperation is very different from that of school and college. Whereas school and college are similar. Moreover, whatever task we get at work is something which is way more different from what we study in school and college. Even though a degree and good academic score help to get a good job, it never helps to survive in that job environment. Moreover, if you are residing in a developing country like India, this is not the only challenge you will experience at work. But the seniors and experienced people will also do their best to play tricks against you. If you are someone who is not smart in talking on calls and you don't know much about how to lie and hide your mistakes, they can create reasons to suddenly fire you. At least, this happened with me when they tried to fire me on a sudden notice, despite my efforts. It happened to me only because of these two reasons. Otherwise, I'm good at tasks, which I can learn online. But whatever tasks companies tell us to do are also something we can never find online. And also, the worst thing about jobs is that if we want to share our problems regarding that online, we can't. The companies promote us to never share our concerns in public, and in the majority of cases only friends and family help us. But what if someone is pursuing a career that their friends and family aren't doing, and they need help in it? Even I also don't have the answer to how to improve and overcome problems in a career where friends and family can't support and guide us. This is a challenge which almost every young adult face. At least in India, I know that everyone goes through this challenge. Regarding how professional life is in developed countries like Canada, the USA, Germany, Europe etc. I don't know much, but somewhere I get to hear that at least dirty job politics is not there, or is less there. Still, it's not like I heard about this directly from a foreigner, so I can't tell whether it is true or not. But jobs in developing countries like India are very challenging. They also don't provide fixed working hours and people end up overworking if in case the company like their performance. And if they hate their performance, they will fire them on sudden notice. And they will tell them that they aren't eligible for any jobs in the future while getting the firing notice. Companies don't even provide experience letters, or if they provide they write negatively in them whenever they have an issue with someone's performance. And there's nothing in between. Either they will love your performance and will make you overwork, or they will hate your performance. In both cases, you will be sad with how your life has become. That's all I wanted to share according to what I feel is the harsh reality of life as a young adult who is currently doing bad in her career because of the above reasons. I wish it wasn't the reality. Even if it would be some other country where we can get better jobs, I will love to know and prepare to move to that country. If any one of you doesn't agree with my points, then please reply to me back here. It will surely make me happy, because I'm unable to survive this harsh reality of life. Otherwise, what are the things people wrote to this answer, like how people can't be trusted, or not every good person gets an easy life, or not every parent loves their children, is something which I'm surviving well. Because I have also experienced those, by overcoming them to such an extent that it doesn't matter to me much nowadays. But something bad in professional life is more traumatic, because life without a stable income is another challenge which I don't think anyone will love to have. I used to be sad about those points which people talked about in the answers before, but now only career matters to me the most. And I will be happy if my career will become good someday. That's all. Thank you very much for reading my answer. And if anyone can help or have something positive to tell about your career, even if it would be of any country, then please revert me. After all, in long term, I'm doing my best to move abroad for better career opportunities and a better standard of living. That's why knowing what jobs are like in other countries can help me very much. 2 points here I'm actually trying to make. Children often pay a higher price for the mistakes of their parents than their parents actually do. Do not get me wrong, parents suffer too, and from a certain perspective much worse, because your child is a part of you. You brought your child into this world. Something or someone endangers your child, you are too endangered. But it does seem that throughout life, it is the children not adults who suffer even more. Take Charlie and the Chocolate Factory for example. 4 naughty children whose parents bring them up in negative ways suffer much worse than their parents do. Though notice how Veruca Salt, the spoiled girl, does not only fall into the garbage chute, but her father as well. Who is the one who ends up abused or neglected, who is the one who suffers a greater ridicule, who is the one who sometimes end up in deeper trouble, who is the one whose fingers point to, even by other adults. Who is the one who seems to live the more hellish life? The child. That is right, someone innocent in the game. Not saying the children who do happen to be in the wrong should get away with every bad behavior known in the book, but if they are the ones who end up not doing the wrong, whether the wrong is intentional or not, then why not place the fault where it actually should go? The apple does not fall far from the tree. What can you say when a child is a curse? The parents are usually 10 times worse, or haven't you noticed? Golden Orchestra and Chorus, the Veruca Salt Oompa Loompa song. In regards to work, nobody cares about what you're not doing, so work harder than everyone else. Basically, nobody's going to give a crap if you decide to stop putting in the work, because they'll get the work instead. People treat others badly, especially in relationships. Eventually, the people doing it will realize that their time being able to do that runs out for one reason or another. If you don't take care of your body, you don't get another one, regardless of what social media tells you. Time isn't infinite. People on social media try to convince others that they have all this time to make people wait for them, or that they have infinite time to get stuff done. You don't. Work is not your friend. Your co-workers are not your friends. You can and will be fired at a moment's notice at some point in life. Your co-workers are there to make money. Some of them have families and will backstab you to make sure they get what they need for their families. Most of your friends aren't your friends. If you go out to drink or do a specific thing with someone, you're not friends. Even if you laugh together all the time, you're all friends with the same sport or drug. I get hate comments and DMs on Reddit all the time from people that seem to have actually convinced themselves that their opinion regarding a complete stranger on the internet, whom they've never met, actually matters. It doesn't. They don't pay your bills, put food on your table, or keep a roof over your head. People who send nasty messages are just nasty people who lack power of their own lives or the people in them, so they come on here to do it. What's worse is that many of them would likely have to keep it secret from those in their life, because if they acted that way in public, there would be serious consequences. Their opinion of you does not matter in the slightest. Block or don't respond, and keep doing good things in life. Political parties and politicians are not your best friend. They don't care about you at all. They're one group pretending to be lots of teams in order to find ways to stir up fan bases to put them into power and give them more money. If you volunteer for these people, you're committing and encouraging wage theft among your peers. There's a very good chance that you'll be forgotten. Humanity has been around for so long that much of it has been lost to the ages, but a lot of it is now not worth cataloging. Take a trip through a graveyard and just imagine some of the lives those people had. How chances are they now have family that have no idea they are buried there or what they did. I know myself. My grandparents weren't well, so I never met them. My parents never had much to do with them, so our entire family tree is pretty much lost. Like, genuinely think about how many civilizations there has been, how many empires. The Roman Empire was around longer than most defined countries today, and it's completely gone with much of its history absolutely relegated. All the efforts the people did, perhaps some crucial artwork, perhaps some massive technology breakthrough, pretty much forgotten, or if you are educated in the subject, relegated to such a teaching matter. The quicker you come to terms with that, the better you'll be. I'm sick to death of social media grifters going on about you need to make your mark. All of those people will be forgotten. Absolutely every one of them. There's a very good chance that every political event that we've lived through is going to be forgotten in 1000 to 2000 years, or it'll be a footnote in the greater human history. That is assuming we haven't blown ourselves up. Remember, the earth won't be here for much longer due to the ongoing crisis. Environmental collapse comes, and it comes like a freight train going down a grade with no brakes. The point of no return was 15 years ago. Collapse is an exponential process. Once started, it cannot be halted. We use 560 million terajoules of energy on average since 1998. We will be nice and say only 15% converts to greenhouse gases. 84 million terajoules. Converted into energy I can understand. It is about 20,000 megatons of energy a year. The world's nuclear arsenal is only about 7,500 megatons. That means since 1998 we have released 480,000 megatons of greenhouse energy. Newton's law and thermodynamics apply. That means if we want to halt environmental collapse we need use 480,000 megatons of energy to halt collapse. But we can't just halt the temperature rise where it is at. We can see how the environment we live in is collapsing right now with these temperatures. No, we need to bring the temperature down back to 1998 levels. To do so will require another expenditure of 480,000 megatons of energy. In sum, we would need a grand total of 960,000 amount of energy to halt and reverse global warming. We add an energy debt of 20,000 amount added for every year that passes 960,000 megatons. What would happen if we released all that energy in one moment? Are we capable of harnessing that kind of energy? There is only one way I can think of for us to harness that kind of energy. It would require us to slam a precisely chosen asteroid purposely into the planet. Remember, man's entire nuclear arsenal only accounts for 7,500 megatons. Time vs energy is the problem, and we don't have the time. There is no foreseeable way for us to convert 960,000 megatons of energy into greenhouse capture safely with the amount of time we have. The exponential process of collapse has been initiated. The temperature is already too high to sustain the environment we have flourished in 2031 is when a harbinger comes and heralds the end. Humanity will collectively lose its sheet as the signs of peril and doom become so obvious even the most obtuse will recognize their own mortality. We have no way to safely and effectively use 960,000 megatons of energy. We as a species are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Let exponential environmental collapse run its course and pray the species survives, or release 980,000 megatons of energy and pray the species survives. Either way, humanity will be brought to its knees with the sword of Damocles poised above for a death blow. If we do survive, it will be as cockroaches on the hell on earth we created. This will be at least the fifth time humanity has been brought to the brink of extinction. The people and places may be different, but it is the same wheel, and it completes another revolution soon. Long from now, if there are survivors, they will tell tales of gods and demons who flew in chariots across the sky and fought with arrows and swords of light, whose wrath was so great they brought the sun down upon the earth to scorch it, leaving great lakes of glass as testament of their power. Just like us, they will become enamored by their own ingenuity and wit. They will scoff at these tales as just that, tales, and repeat history. Damn you all to hell for the suffering you bring upon the future generations. There will be no mercy, there will be no absolution, there will only be hell on earth. Man will eat man and he shall weep. Everyone is replaceable. This sucks in some ways. Everyone likes to think that they are the main character, but I use it as a way to be my best and not be, and as you can also look at it as that person in your life that is toxic and lets you down does not have to control your life. You have a choice. Just like they do. If you are great at your job and make everyone hate you, then you will be replaced. It may hurt for a bit, but the company won't likely shut down without you. Married? Be the best spouse you can be and always work to improve yourself. Yes, you love each other, but ignore your wife and her feelings and she will find someone who will fill that need. You might say, you don't understand, I make the money, she can't make it without me. I promise you she can and will. If she does not want to, she or he will replace you with someone to fill the role. This goes for emotionally and physically. You might say, what about family? Family is absolutely replaceable. You can find paternal and maternal figures in the world. Your sister/brother that never calls you, lets you down, or filled that sexual need for your spouse. Many people have stronger relationships with their best friends, who they would die for, because they work to make it that way. You aren't really entitled to anything. Just because you are born, doesn't mean anything is guaranteed. It means your parents were genetically compatible. You might have fought hard, worked hard, tried your damnedest. You might have rightfully fought law and lost. You might have a disability and had to try harder. You might have gone above and beyond and no one noticed. Sometimes it does come down to when you were born, who your parents were, if you just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Babies die from cancer. Babies sometimes die before birth and the parents suffer a crushing loss, while other parents seem to sneeze and have healthy babies. Millions of young people have died in war without achieving their potential, and they are for the most part forgotten. Other people who don't do anything seem to get everything. Even if they try their best to be the worst, they have fans, money, luxury. Unless you do something absolutely phenomenal for the benefit or detriment of mankind, within 4 generations, no one living will remember you. Live for now, with what you have. Bring joy, create joy, experience joy. Work for a possible future, but don't rely on it. Don't expect to cross all the T's and dot the I's, and expect everything will work out. Make your own way. Take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way. Don't kick people on your way up, you might see them on your way down. This is mainly for teenagers, but I think a lot of them get this. Most of being an adult means doing things you don't want to do for long periods, and some of what you do is really scary at first and there might not be a guidebook, but you do it anyway. This isn't to say being an adult isn't fun, just to say that discipline and patience and trying new things is required. Get comfortable with being bored for longer than 5 minutes. Do that anyway. It's the beginning of hearing your thoughts and feelings and being mindful about them. You'll mess up and that's okay. Sometimes you'll do literally everything right and unexpected difficult things will just happen that you have to deal with. You'll have to learn to set certain boundaries with everyone and need to be firm about them. You are going to have to hear certain opposing opinions from other people without getting defensive immediately. You can debate and argue valid points, but don't devolve to name calling, and be as respectful to the other side as you can be, while still calling out the hurtful opinions for what they are. Some people can't be reasoned with, and you'll just have to quit with them, but you definitely won't be able to hold a dialogue if both sides shut each other down off the bat. This is a weird balancing act. If possible, have these discussions in person. Debating/arguing online the 9th of August 10 times is an absolute shit show. In person, you can see who the other person is, and body language will tell you a lot about what kind of person they are. Maybe they are very kind and just misunderstand a lot of things. Social media isn't real life. Social media isn't real life. Staying on social media every day will make you depressed and will disconnect you from other people, even though it looks like it's designed to do the opposite. Stop using filters for every picture. Seriously, it messes up how you see yourself and others. Any interaction with police that involves them giving commands, implicit understanding that denying obedience to the legal system results in state-sanctioned kidnapping, and therefore obedience to the legal system in general. Owning advanced technology. Lots of fancy things are built by child slaves overseas, simply creating businesses in lots of areas, depending on the business and practices of it, i.e. fracking poisons thousands of people in the States. I'd consider knowledgeable poisoning violence. Many of these wouldn't really be considered violence, except that we live in a closed system, the earth and surrounding atmosphere, and therefore side effects of actions harm humans and other life. Knowing the side effect of a practice will be harm to human life, and continuing the practice is a violent decision, in my opinion. Going off of that logic though, there are lots of things that can be considered violence. Locking somebody in a cage and starving them is violence, even if you never hit them. I'd call that imprisonment. Forcing somebody to be in an environment that they cannot escape from without outside means of help. Stranding somebody on an island or in the middle of a desert, but with food, is still imprisonment. Although different. I'd go as far as to say any form of government in itself is implied violence. All human systems use violence as leverage, be it directly or through a state-sanctioned process. Physical pain is a reality of life. It's the price you pay for admission. Pain is the one reason people go to the doctor. Here's some statistics. 20.4% of adults experience long-term chronic pain on a daily basis. 20% of adults in the US experience pain daily. Chronic pain is the #1 cause of long-term disability in America. Chronic lower back pain is the most common type of chronic pain. Chronic pain is one of the easiest physical issues to diagnose and one of the most difficult to treat. Widespread chronic pain is one of the key reasons for the opioid epidemic. Aside from how highly addictive opioids are and how much money they made, the best way to combat pain is to be healthy. Healthy weight, healthy diet, etc. There is a statistical correlation between physical pain, specifically long-term chronic pain, and depression and/or anxiety. The mental health side effects of long-term chronic pain are as difficult to treat and manage as the pain itself. I know because I have personal experience with all of this. The statistics suggest that it is the price of admission. As we get older, our bodies just start to break down. Sometimes we help that process along in our youth through sports injuries or a car accident or something. Eventually it comes for us all, and we can do our best to combat it through healthy living and strong bodies. If you're lucky, you'll live a well life without even a hurt finger. Or maybe you struggle every day. It can be hard to accept the human condition, and even though in the end none of us make it out alive, together we can make it through, even if it is with the wheels falling off. Not all terrible people and actions can be explained away with mental illness. As someone with bipolar, I hate whenever things like bigotry/alt-right ideologies, murder/other violent crimes, or just something completely idiotic are written off as mental illness sheet. Sometimes the top comment on something very hateful a Republican said was just mental illness. I'm mentally ill and have never once thought about committing some sort of atrocity or being a bigot to another person. People are often made very uncomfortable by the fact that someone can be 100% neurotypical and still do/say incredibly cruel things. Writing every bit of cruelty you see off as mental illness is a cop-out that deflects from other factors and issues that led to those things. People being motivated by survival. People growing up in a culture that embraces rigid individualism and shuns collectivism. Growing up in environments that encourage emotional repression, normalization of violence, being religiously zealous, any number of things. Cruelty doesn't automatically mean mental illness, and mental illness doesn't automatically mean cruelty. Slapping that label onto anything terrible that you find unexplainably bad further escalates the stigma that mentally ill people have to face. If you care about suicide prevention, being mindful of the stigma and shame you place on the demographic with the highest suicide rates is a good first step. Most people aren't emotionally mature. In fact, I'd wager it's the source of most personal and global issues. Just because your body grew, you reached sexual maturity, doesn't mean your mind and emotions also grew and developed. In order for that to happen, it takes the guidance of someone with maturity to help you grow the right way. This issue is especially rampant amongst men. Women are generally socialized with more emotional maturity, while men are actively discouraged by our current society to engage with emotional maturation, because being emotional mature is considered anti-masculine. Also, on a hyper-capitalist tip, emotionally mature men don't make good soldiers or abused workers. This issue, the lack of maturity, is coming to a head now. You have active agents in social media really trying hard to divert men into spaces of immaturity, finger pointing and blame of others for their problems instead of encouraging men to look within and see that they are scared children doing poorly to cope with a world that is accelerating its rate of change faster than they can process. Sadly, this is generational and across every socio-economic stratum. It's years and years of built-up trauma, repression, and toxic attitudes stewing and braising everyone and everything caught in its vessel until the meat falls off the bone. It's sad and demoralizing to realize a lot of people being shitty people are shitty because they never had a chance not to be. Sure, free will is a thing, personal choices are a thing, but I'm interested in the ways that being part of a larger structure can obscure certain choices. Block off certain avenues of progress, such that you have a permanently disenfranchised group to exploit in perpetuity. If you have the will to look and want to grow, but don't know where to start, I recommend beginning with Lindsay Gibson's books Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents and Recovering from Emotionally Immature Parents. It's tough, but it's a worthwhile journey in the end. Life is cruel, but not just to you. While sometimes it may feel like you are suffering with an unfair amount of bad events and such, you're not alone. We all know we are not alone, but it's much harder to realize the truth behind it. It can be comforting to know that life hasn't just singled you out to bully you, rather instead many people go through similar or the same thing. One of the hardest things in life is to hear someone suffering through something that isn't as bad as what you're going through, and to be sympathetic. It takes a great deal of maturity and humble sympathy to realize what you're going through doesn't cancel or trivialize what someone else is going through. Just like if someone had it worse than you wouldn't want them to belittle what you suffered. Just because their suffering is greater, you won't find your happiness sitting down. As someone who has suffered with depression for most of his life, it's the hardest thing I learned. The best way I heard to start the long road to better mental health is to not try and force yourself to love yourself. Instead, look in the mirror and find things you don't hate. Point out small positive things and find things about yourself that you can learn to love. Always remember the road is hard, and you'll always have slip-ups. You'll fall down, and that dark spot will always try to come back. But it's okay, you have the strength and the friends, and we'll get through it. If anyone needs to talk about it, I always am willing to chat. Take time to appreciate small things about yourself. Work towards being able to tell yourself you love you. The first time I was able to say it, and not be lying, was Sept 28th of last year. You can beat it. Just don't give up. I went from a smelly, lonely kid who had few to no friends, to a guy who is outgoing, with dozens of friends and now a lovely girlfriend. Life can get better, I promise. I'm gonna say 3 very obvious. 1. Sometimes in life there aren't a good/happy alternative and a bad alternative. Sometimes you just can choose between a bad option and a wrong option. Having as consequence someone could end, hurt, or even dead. You probably would suffer too, but you can't do anything else than taking the most logical and or compassionate decision for others or just yourselves. Depending of who is the protagonist victim here, and comforting yourself in the fact you aren't guilty of what happened, and you did your best inside your own limitations. You didn't made the world. You can't control everything. Life is incredibly kind and generous, but frequently we find a cruel face staring at us. 2. Not everyone has an opinion about everything in every moment of their lives. You can't know every single social problem, film, or person around, and even if you know the controversial matter of a conversation, it's probable that you don't really know what to think about, or you're just not interested in it. And that's perfectly fine. Also, everyone has opinions that, whether are true or wrong, don't speak in public or even with their closest loving ones. We could classify opinions in many categories, and among them is the harmless opinion. Maybe what you think is silly or utterly offensive for many people, but you aren't gonna hurt anyone because of this belief or theory you have. Neither its mere existence inside your mind is magically killing people like if you would be in a Stephen King novel. So, it's fine. Every person is gonna die having many dumb opinions, prejudices and untrue beliefs, and this is as normal as inevitable. We can't know everything. Our worldview and thinking process are more influences by our genes than people want to accept, and we also own tastes and a free will and hence the right to think what we want, whether it's ethical or not. Point 3. The majority of human population have a great potential, but due to their laziness and mediocrity they don't make an effort to use it in bettering societies. They know they have this problem. Some of them try to change and face it, but the most of them just sit and secretly ask for hero-like persons who can make a miracle for them. The 2%, 5% of human population, the gifted kind and HPS folks, who historically provided the finest artwork, masterpieces and scientific advances/discoveries, are severely scorned and discriminated since childhood because of their huge sensitivity, intellectual skills, creativity, and independence they are born with. As a result, they normally fall into deep depressions and existential crisis, thinking themselves ill and useless, hiding themselves and never exploring their potential. The worst thing is that, where psychologists and politicians talk about this social problem, they say, it's a shame that gifted people have to suffer this. They must receive therapy cause our society is losing their potential. Instead, it's a shame they have to suffer this. They must receive therapy because they are worthy human beings who deserve to live happily and loving themselves like anyone else. They are saw mostly like a tool for their skill than people with feeling and a mental health point. People ask for a savior, and when they have an improver willing to help them, they mistreat and laud this person like a pig in a awful dirty farm. And then they keep asking why things still wrong. The murder of JFK was a coup d'etat, or an overthrow of government by force. This means the succeeding government is illegitimate. The mainstream media continues to support the falsehoods about both JFK and 9/11, meaning they are controlled by the very same people who carried out these acts. You can't just barge in and announce that you're overthrowing someone's government. You have a group of paid killers murder the commander-in-chief and then blame it on a lone madman/patsy. This way it doesn't appear to the public that you're being infiltrated. If the people knew, they would have acted. America is now fully owned and operated by a group of very rich, very powerful Zionists and US citizens loyal to Israel. You think Israel wouldn't harm Americans? The US liberty begs to differ. They are not our friends. They are not our allies. And if you say anything to criticize them, especially when it's the truth, you will be labeled an anti-Semite. You will be silenced and deleted. The few of us that know the truths of 9/11 are labeled as the ever so generic and overly used term conspiracy theorists to try and discredit anything those people might have to say. It's a trick and it works well. Israeli Mossad is practically 100% behind 9/11. But people don't like to be wrong, so they just support the most popular, most socially accepted explanation of the event, and anyone who presents new information is a tinfoil hat wearer. Keep drinking the Kool-Aid though. They'll continue to hold that big curtain up until it's no longer worthwhile, and the US will be left wondering how they let this happen. You are living in a mass extinction that will define your life going forward, no matter where you live or what you do. Life will never return to normal because all of these problems are the consequence of just one lifetime of that normal point. No one said we could have all this stuff without causing a mass extinction. No one said humans could start flying everywhere after being notably flightless for its entire existence. There is no technology to fix this or any intention to stop it. Humans want to think they are the most adaptable species and would survive this, but we are facing at least 50, more like 1,000, years of increasingly nasty weather after we stop living like a cancer on the earth. Because we are the last humans, we have a duty to life on Earth to prepare the planet for our departure. Currently, we have stockpiles of incredibly potent heat-trapping gases, up to 80,000 x as bad as CO2 with lifetimes of 40,000 years. These are kept in vessels rated for 100 years maximum, most of them 40 years. With the same importance and urgency you'd act to put out a fire in your kitchen, billions of humans must immediately get to work in properly destroying these chemicals. The more stable, the harder to dispose of, without letting any out. There's no future for humanity where we are living like this, on our phones, driving cars, generally burning fuel. That future is just a silent planet with no legacy and certainly no one to pass any information along to. The only way forward is with less stuff working together to clean up our mess. The people that cause this are also the people reading this. How can anyone be proud of themselves in their lives when the net effect of their efforts is extinction? Both your own and that of every life larger than the simplest bacteria. This cannot be the right way to live if it ends the world in one human lifetime. The things you plan to do when you're ready will never happen. You have to just do it now. We always make excuses as to what reason we are waiting for. Until I save enough. Until I figure my career out. Until I find my soulmate. Until it feels right. Until I'm mentally ready. Reality check. You might never feel you have saved enough money to do something. You might never feel like you got your career figured out. You might not ever find your soulmate. It might never feel like the right time. You might never feel mentally ready. So those things you keep telling yourself to do will be things you regret not doing on your deathbed. Example from me, my commute to work was 2 hours a day total. COVID made me work from home, still do today, and so that freed up 2 hours a day on the weekdays. I decided to do something useful with the time. I like heist movies and thought it's cool when people pick locks. I also enjoy the occasional lock-picking lawyer videos. I decided screw it, I will learn, anyone can learn, so I did. I also feel jealous and frustration when people speak in another language. I want to know what they're saying. Humans are just curious, and it's unbearable not being able to understand. So I decided to learn a language. Unfortunately 2 years ago I chose Russian, just because I'm doing it for fun, and wanted something exotic, not knowing February 2022 would happen, lol. But regardless of what the jackass Putin did, I'm 2 years into it, and I can have conversations with people in Russian. I'm even better at reading/writing. Typing actually. Handwritten Russian is hardcode. Still have a way to go, as Russian is freaking hard. Legit. Probably worse than Mandarin due to its incredibly complex grammar. But it's awesome. And I'm going to keep going even after fluency onto another language. I also want to learn to weld. So when I free up a bit more time, that's my next to do. I'm never going to stop this learning process. I needed points, so don't think or say you'll do something someday. Someday means never do it now. Make a purchase, commit to it, schedule something, get the ball rolling now. Time is not an infinite resource for individual humans. You can't buy more of it, no matter how much money you have, so stop planning, just do. I'm not old, but I have picked up on a few things. Just because you know something doesn't mean you know something. Points and lessons you will learn over and over again. Life is a roller coaster. You will have highs, you will have lows, but you will always average out the same. The highs are dangerous because they are followed by lows. That's why drugs and so many other good things are so bad. Just try and enjoy the ride. There's almost no such thing as an idiot. You can't know everything, so there will be some obvious things we miss out on and some genius things you do. Just the other day, I stopped and got out of my car because I thought the mall cop was pulling me over. He wasn't, but he was mad. When we see someone do something really stupid, we assume that's indicative of their entire self, when it never is. You're just as stupid as the average person. You just don't see it, because everyone thinks they are right all the time, even you. You can't fix human nature. Just because you know you are naturally biased, doesn't mean you can consciously magically balance it out. You're just going to fool yourself. An important part of your brain's job is to trick you into thinking you are perfect and correct. Point in the right situation. It could have always been you. You could have been responsible for the Holocaust. You could have raped and murdered your way through a village, given the right circumstances. People can mentally justify anything away, even if they know that their excuse is shaky. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never ever be fixed. It's never gonna get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. Point I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners. The big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. Point you have owners. They own you. Point they own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They are not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interests. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around a kitchen table to figure out how badly they are getting faked by a system that threw them overboard 30 faking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your social security money. They want your retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you, sooner or later, cause they own this faking place. Point, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. Point, you and I are not in the big club. Point, and by the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long, when they tell you what to believe. All day long beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, it doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich corksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. Point, they don't give a fuck about you. Point, they don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all, at all, at all. Point, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Point, that's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream. Because you have to be asleep to believe it. Point, George Carlin 40. Until the year 2050, sea levels will rise half a meter. 35% of the land surface and 55% of the global population will most probably be exposed to deadly heat beyond the threshold of human survivability for more than 20 days a year. Rainy and dry seasons will be changing due to the destabilization of important wind and ocean currents. Extreme weather and spreading deserts will affect practically all regions of the world. As a result, important ecosystems will probably collapse, including coral reefs, the Amazon rainforest, and in the Arctic. Point, some parts of the world will become uninhabitable for humans if there cannot be provided artificially cooled habitats. That affects, for example, the countries of Mozambique, Iran, Madagascar, Pakistan, Kenya, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Angola, Ethiopia, India, Central African Republic and 18 more. Deadly heat will dominate West Africa, the tropical regions of South America, the Middle East and Southeast Asia for more than 100 days a year, and will contribute to the displacement of more than a billion people from the tropics. Drinking water will become scarce for around 2 billion people in the most affected areas. Farming becomes impossible in the arid subtropics. Less food will be produced in most regions of the world. Food is becoming scarcer and food prices are exploding. Point, the lower reaches of agriculturally important river deltas such as the Mekong, Ganges and Nile might be flooded in some of the world's largest cities, including Chennai, Mumbai, Jakarta, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, Ho Chi Minh City, Shanghai, Bangkok and Manila will be partially flooded and probably will be given up. 10% of Bangladesh will be underwater, displacing 15 million people. The world's economy is running on faith alone at this juncture, and the rich are richer than ever, while the working class is being railroaded. We have blatant corruption worldwide, such as the most recent Prime Minister collecting a £100,000 plus salary for 44 days in office. Officials like DeSantis in the US actively trafficking people into the US to no punishment. And even Donald Trump, not only avoiding jail for the damage he's done to our country, denying the COVID severity, but also inciting a coup attempt and selling national secrets he stole and was caught with by the FBI. Not only avoiding jail time, but actually attempting to run again, where he'll likely win because he has a cult-like following that will vote for him regardless of what he or anyone else does. If we don't take action soon and start kicking in the wealthy's teeth for screwing us for so long, they are going to get away with it and die in peace of natural causes while our world becomes more and more damaged beyond repair. We can't keep looking for those with money and power to look out for us. They're all screwing us. Obama isn't going to turn to the nation one day and say enough is enough. We need to attack these bastards because they've taken everything. People will eventually go hungry, but at this rate, that will be years after everyone has lost their homes, their education, their dignity, all of it. and by then it won't be an issue of power keeping food from people, but rather an issue of climate preventing production of food. In such a world only the rich will be able to afford 3 square meals, while they publish articles in Forbes about how eating less is a major benefit for poor people as they don't need to pay money for food anymore. Start organizing your own unions, for work if you must, but more importantly so for your worth as people. It's entirely possible to be successful. This message is tailored to young people like millennials and Gen Z. Look around you, and I don't mean at the billionaires, but look at the people who have a good job, who took college seriously, etc. Some millennials now own homes, some have kids, etc. It's entirely possible to get there. Reddit focuses too much on the lowest common denominator, and while everyone acts like they're smarter than 50% of the country here, everyone simultaneously acts like they're in the bottom 20% of income and career. If you're so smart, how can you be so poor? Building more on #1, it's true a lot of people don't save enough for retirement or their future, but it's also true a lot of people do save plenty. Instead of looking at how much worse everyone else is than you, look at how many people made it work. Those who started saving at 25 are far better off than those who started at 35, and almost everyone I meet regrets not starting earlier. I'm not trying to conflate money with success, but more so trying to address the constant crying on Reddit about how it sucks to be our generation and the older people ruined it all. Stop crying about it. Every generation has had its struggles. There's more tools than ever to figure out your career, learn about saving for retirement, budgeting, etc. And for the 5 past presidential administrations, I've been hearing about a push for STEM education. If you're still jerking around in college and complaining about how you have nothing but a mountain of debt, maybe you should look at those r/career question new grad offers and rethink your life plan. I'm not asking you to go into software engineering, but there's clearly a recipe that works. Figure out your recipe instead of crying about it. You will never be Japanese. You have no ancestry. You have no citizenship. You have no skills that would make Japan ever want you. You are a shut-in self-hating white man twisted by delusions of mythical Japanese superiority and exposure to Japanese media into a disgusting mockery of nature's perfection. All validation you get from other people in this position couldn't be worse in making you believe that spending years of your life learning a globally useless language to a first grader's level was a worthwhile use of your time. But one can't expect that an individual as pathetic as you will ever know the value of the youth you threw away in doing that. Actual Japanese are utterly repulsed by you. Thousands of years of linguistic evolution have allowed natives to identify frauds from mannerisms and vocabulary alone. Even if your written text of self-hatred and attention begging akin to a stray dog somehow passes as normal, it won't. Any Japanese person will immediately cut all ties when they hear the voice and accent of someone who is not only a basic Japanese speaker at best, but worth no more than garbage in skills, accomplishments, and likability. You will never be happy. You wrench out a fake smile and laugh to yourself believing that watching a content creator that you understand 20% of at best is somehow superior than watching your own kind, as you project your disgusting traits onto your entire kind. However, deep inside you feel the depression creeping up like a weed, ready to crush you under the unbearable weight, and you know that all you do now is have an entirely new linguistic medium in which to be ignored, and not even the exotic trait of being foreign makes up for just how uninteresting of a person you are. Eventually it'll be too much to bear. You'll buy a rope, tie a noose, put it around your neck, and plunge into the cold abyss. Your parents will find you, heartbroken but relieved that they no longer have to live with the unbearable shame and disappointment. They'll bury you with a headstone marked with your birth name, and every passerby for the rest of eternity will know a Western man is buried there. Your body will decay and go back to the dust, and all that will remain of your legacy is a skeleton that is unmistakably Caucasian. This is your fate. This is what you chose. There is no turning back. Hate yourself and apologize for being white to some Japanese entity that exists only in your mind, while actual Japanese people put in effort to learn English for the valid reason of it being the global language. You are enough and good enough the way you are. You do not need to be better to love yourself or be loved. You deserve to be treated with love and respect. But you are not faking special. Life isn't fair, and it does not exist to make your life easier. The way things should be is not the way things are. I don't care if you're neurodivergent, I'm too. But you have to learn to play the game. We all have struggles we need to overcome. Maybe it's a learning disability, maybe it's sensory processing disorder, maybe it's autism, maybe it's having a physical disability. But if you want to get a house, you need to do what generations before you did. You need to build credit, pay off debt, but not too much. You need to save. It's not fair that you have to have perfect credit and that student loan balances are at an all-time high. It is not fair loan companies and colleges sold you the dream of the college experience, or that you had to go to college. But if you want to achieve your goal of buying a house, you need to do it that way and play by their rules. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. The banks aren't changing their standards. We can fight for it to change, but if you want to accomplish your goals, you need to learn to play the game. Same thing about medical insurance. It's horrible and corrupt and awful. They take advantage of sick people. Looking at the monopolies on pharmaceuticals. But if you want to get what you want, you need to play by medical insurance's rules. You want them to cover your cancer drugs, you need to do what they say you need. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. That the housing market is about to experience another 08-foot moment, but worse. If you bought a house this past year, or have an arm or a balloon or any inflatable rate, you're going to get absolutely wrecked. You and your family are not safe. Not safe at all. You're most likely going to get evicted. The economy is about to enter a Great Depression and your job is not safe for the most part. You and your family are most likely over leveraged in this economy and live outside your means. Inflation isn't 8.5%. It's much higher. Credit default swaps, rehypothecation, and fraud have skyrocketed since 2020. The reverse repo rate is at 5% with a total of $2.2 trillion. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Elon Musk is a scam artist that runs a sophisticated Ponzi scheme that has you convinced he's a great guy with a revolutionary product. But it's all dog shit. No. Dogecoin won't go to the moon should have sold at 0.77 cents. The election wasn't a scam, nor was it stolen. Trump literally signed a document via his lawyer. Stop believing in that dumb shit. If you believe that, then you were brainwashed. S46 sorry, not sorry. No, the Fed can't control the economy. OPEC controls it at this point, you silly goose. When you die, the soul doesn't leave the body. When you die, the body leaves the soul, meaning we are all manifested into the reality of the substance of spirit right now. This is it. The human experience is the ultimate summit of attainment. When you die, that's it. That's the end of everything you are, and the only part of you that will exist is the impact you made in the body of spirit, the world you are manifested in. The truth is, you are the result of a blood-such magical ritual called copulation. Your parents were successful in completing that ancient rite on this plane. This rite is so universal and ubiquitous, it is the primary drive of all of our underlying functions. To behold this power within oneself, and to harness it, instead of being harnessed by it, is to unlock the medicine of metals. It is to drink from the holy grail itself. All of reality is holy, and without any distinction. Your pain is a mere illusion, it is a shadow that fade and pass, but there is a pure light that remains, but was absolutely necessary for you to make the distinction. Nothing chose to divide itself into infinity for the sake of an eventual union by those parts balancing itself out and reverting back into the void of 0. The pleasure of existence, just like the need to fact and the need to exist, are undying. It is the force that called you into being, and it is this is the mystery of mankind, that we are the highest of all manifested beings, but the lowest of all spiritual beings. We are beasts, caught between godhood and mortality. We have the ability to use our intellectual mind and synthesize a reality based on our internal balancing, while standing firmly in the rooted one, that all creation is bound to point. Your drive should be to discover your innate inner function of being underneath your temporal conditioning, and then cultivate a reality for manifesting that discovered will. Stop wasting time on belief in an afterlife or some bullshit. Start living here and now. Stop perpetuating the sins and ignorance of your forefathers and discover your individuality. A big reason we are experiencing massive climate change and environmental decay is because there are far too many people alive and consuming resources all at once. For all of human history up until the 1800s, we never had more than 1 billion people walking the earth at the same time. We required the Industrial Revolution to be able to support that many people, and we didn't cross the 2 billion mark until the 1950s because of modern agricultural practices required to supply that many people with cheap food. Now we have 8 billion and growing. So for over a million years we had less than 1 billion. Then in 150 years we developed industrial agriculture and grew another billion. And now we have 8 billion people in less than 70 years from that point. And each one of them is using electricity and eating food and burning oil just by being alive and depending on all the mechanisms of society to support them. Whether we die from war or climate change or internal socio-economic hardships, billions of extra people are alive solely because they are living on the margin of borrowed time. So either we rapidly discover fusion and replacements for industrialized agriculture, or a lot of people will cease existing in a short period of time, whether they bring the entire planet's ecosystems down with them or not. That is the harshest truth we don't discuss as a species. That we are all heroes of our own story, and that leads us to act in ways that are either congruent with the current information we have on hand or not. For the below examples I'm using extremes, and society is diverse with everyone from all walks of life somewhere different on the scale. And just because I'm saying that someone is homeless doesn't mean they fit the example I gave. And because I used a person who acts entitled for the rich person example, doesn't mean they all are. We're all heroes of our own story, and people are just doing the best with the information they have on hand or are given. This may lead them to do things you perceive as shitty, but they might have been raised to think of that as a good solution to that problem point, or they could have developed mental issues that skew their perspective on things, leading them to react in a non-logical way, not to absolve the morally and literally shitty things they might have done, but there is a reason for every action and reaction behind the scenes. That one person who's begging for money on the street may be suffering from a mental break after losing a loved one, or a downturn in the economy may have led them to being homeless. They could be using heroin or meth just to give them energy, to panhandle for food to keep them going, and give them enough energy to make it to shelter during the night. They may be camping out in an area with lots of crime and be required to be alert during the evening so others do not rob them. That fat cat financial tycoon, think the trust fund baby, may and usually get the best kind of training for schooling and get everything handed to them after their parents were brought up from nothing themselves and want to provide everything they didn't have to their kid. This could also lead that kid to not know what it's like in the lower or middle class and cause them to have zero sympathy or empathy for those not in their social caste. The above of course leads to the meme of the guy in the Ferrari cutting every line, talking in the phone, and acting like they are the most important person in the world. Wrapping this all up, there's reasons why folks act the way they do, or why they are in their present situation. Doesn't necessarily make them bad people, or that they should be looked down on as an individual, but their behavior doesn't fit what society deems as appropriate. It's always best to realize that we are all on this world together, and we all come from different backgrounds. And by all means people will do shitty things that doesn't match what that zeitgeist thinks is appropriate, but oftentimes it's just slightly helpful to understand why they did the activity, and we all gotta have a bit more understanding with each other. Point again, I'm not absolving reprehensible behavior at all, or that you have to practice peace and love everyone, just saying it's helpful, and practicing a tiny bit of understanding with our fellow people benefits us all. There isn't someone out there for everyone. Learn to accept that, and don't let people get you down when they give you the tired old platitudes about there's someone out there for everyone. You'll find them, probably when you least expect it, and other crap like that. Some people just never find someone to become soulmates with. It doesn't mean your life is worthless and can't still be fulfilling. Yes, out of a few billion people who are, for most of us, the sex/gender we're attracted to, chances are very good that someone else would be compatible. However, you will never meet, or even see, the vast majority of them. Most estimates are that you'll meet only somewhere in the tens of thousands of people in your entire lifetime. And take half of that, probably a bit less, For the rough number of people you'd be mutually compatible with only in regards to sex/gender of those people, a fairly large majority are probably out of your age range. Point of the people left, most, won't be available at the same time as you, especially if you only meet them once, or for a short period of time. Of the people still remaining, how many would actually be compatible enough with you to date? Depends on the people, of course, but for most of us, it's pretty few. And out of the relationships that begin, of course very few continue all the way through to marriage, or other life partners. Of those, around half or more end up divorced/separated, which some would say indicates that they weren't really your soulmate/life partner after all. So yeah, the chances of meeting, dating, and committing long term to someone else who is really compatible are fairly low, especially compared to the movies and fairy tales and platitudes that all claim you will meet the right one when it's time. It's emotionally damaging to believe that it's automatically going to happen for everyone. I'm not saying to give up or not try, just that you should assume that it's not going to happen automatically, be psychologically prepared for that, and then just be thankful and joyful if and when it does happen. And then work to build and maintain that, because good healthy relationships also don't just happen on their own, even after you make the initial connection. No means no. Allow me to set the stage first with this paragraph. In sex, we are taught that if a woman says no to sex, there is nothing more she needs to say. The man just accepts it, and that is that. No continuing to ask or anything. No means no. Same thing if a man says it to a woman. Neither should get mad or insult the other person. They should move on with no comment. Here is the harsh reality part. It applies to more than sex. If someone wants to leave you, or if you want to leave someone else, like a significant other, or a friend, or a job, no means no. You don't have to explain anything to them if you don't want, and they do not have to explain anything to you. If you, as a man or woman, have been dating, living together, married, and your partner says the relationship is not working for them, they only have to say no. The relationship is over for them. They do not owe you any type of explanation whatsoever. No means no. It means I don't want you anymore. Don't cry, scream, beg. Don't say, you owe me an explanation after all this time. No, I don't owe you jack. Just get the fuck out of my face. I don't care about you anymore, for whatever reason I have, and I do not have to share that reason with you. No means no. I owe you no explanation. I owe you nothing. I'm not your slave. Get out. And vice versa, if you are doing the leaving. If you are a mature man or woman, just accept it and move on. It doesn't matter if you knew the person for one day or married for 20 years. Just shrug, say okay, and don't be a drama queen or king. If someone ghosts you, they are implicitly saying no fuck you. If you are angry, just STF you and move on with your life already. Nobody cares if you think it is rude or whatever, or if you don't ghost others. Just move on. Quit your whining. If a friend is distant all the time now, never calls you anymore, although they accept yours, grudgingly, get a clue. They are implicitly saying no to you. Move on with your life. Find a new friend. Don't engage with them anymore. Just FFS move on. No person owes you anything, unless it is some kind of business agreement or legal contract and they or you must fulfill legally, of course.